We are here with another story on our Recovery Month series, Recovery Stories from the Pandemic. And today we actually have celebrity chef Bryan David Scott with us to share more about his journey to sobriety. And he has been busy on the road, but he wanted to share his story. Just so much going on with him. But he felt it was important to take time to share his story with us. So thank you for being on today and sharing your journey.
Thank you, Joy. It's a pleasure to be with you all.
Well, one of the things I wanted to start out with is a lot of people, when they hear celebrity chef, they think of the limelight. They think of all of the amazing things, probably the celebrities that you've had a chance to cook for. But what they may not see is some of the challenges and struggles and the pressures that come along with being and operating at that level. So share with me a little bit about your journey and what people may not even realize were the challenges that you faced in your path to success.
Well, there's no doubt being in the limelight it's a glorious life, and there's just no running from it or hiding. It's awesome. But what people don't understand are the pressures that go with that. It's not just the pressure to perform. It's sometimes traveling all night to get someplace to be there so that you're ready to rock. It's, a 12-hour day is a part-time day. When you're out on tour, by the time you hit the camera, many times it's a 25, 26-hour day when we wrap up. And to be able to do that over and over again, consecutively, people don't hear about that. They don't see the driving, for many hours, or flying or the different things and being away from the wife and the kids. And then the pressure to perform, comes at, I'm not saying that just because you're in entertainment, because you've got to have that energy that you do drugs or drink. I found comfort in both. It allowed me to have the level of energy that I wanted so I can just keep bringing the party. But then I'd get back to my hotel room and I would want to numb down for the day. And so I started drinking heavier as my fame began growing. And I just ended up going off the rails with my drinking. So came home from the Kentucky Derby, made a colossal fool out of myself. And I realized then and there that I needed help. And so one day, about a half a bottle of whiskey in with 4 beers, I realized, what are you doing, man? And so I grabbed my insurance card, made the call, and about 5 hours later, I found myself at Desert Hope here in Las Vegas. And my journey to recovery began. And wow, what an awesome journey it's been.
Wow. Just hearing, your story and just sharing, I think people don't realize, like you said, all that the pressure. I mean, it's great. Like you said, I know as we were talking before this interview, you always knew at age 5 that you wanted to be famous. And
Yeah.
this was the path that you were looking forward to. And you've done some pretty amazing things in your career. I mean,
Yeah.
you told me you've cooked for the Oscars and the Grammys and all of that, but still to perform at that level, you said, just takes a lot. So when do you remember, if you think back over this journey, was the first time you realized that you started to use alcohol or other substances to deal with everything?
So I need to rewind my story way back, because at the age of 2, I fell in love with the taste of whiskey. I fell in love with the taste of beer, and especially wine. Like I became fanatical about wine. By the time I really was in the kitchen at the age of 5, I was sneaking wine every chance I could. Of course, at that age, had no clue about the alcohol. I just knew, well, that's a Portuguese wine, and I love Portuguese wine. Or, oh, that's a green bottle, and I like that one. And so by the time I got to the age of 17 and I began as a chef's apprentice in Kansas City, Missouri, I was drinking copious amounts of wine. I was in college at that point. And again, I found myself at the end of the day, maybe having 1 or 2 glasses, but then I would chase that with, a shot or a couple of shots. And going from Kansas City back home to the San Francisco Bay Area, I had taken a job It was a marketing job. And I began to understand at that point in my life, at the age of 20, I would come home and I would have, again, a shot. And then as the weeks would go by, I found that I'm drinking 2, 3, 4 shots, 5 shots. Now I'm a half a bottle, and this is daily. And
Mm.
so at the age of 20, I can remember calling my mom and I said, Mom, I said, I think I've got a problem. And she said, Brian David, you know what to do about it. Make it happen. And I was able to walk away from alcohol. So fast forward a number of years later, here I am. I'm in my mid 40s. I'm famous. My popularity, my fame is on a trajectory that's just, climbing and climbing. I found myself surrounded by other guys that wanted to celebrate life and they have a great time. And you go from a few beers to having a couple of shots, and pretty soon, you're hammered. And I found that I loved that high feeling, and that I didn't care much about life and its problems. And so I would very quietly stop at a store on the way towards my hotel suite, or I'd have it delivered. And I would get hammered. And um, yeah, I quietly went off the rails. The Kentucky Derby for me was a big wake up call. To have the honor of being invited to be one of the 7 celebrity chefs flown in, no doubt we rocked it. There was no harm there, but did I really perform on my optimum level? I don't think so. The private dining experiences we rocked. I mean, they were flawless. But the Kentucky Derby for me, Joy, was my wake up call. I began to understand, and I drank like 18 or 19 double shots of whiskey, and it just, they literally had to carry me out of the bar on a hotel cart to get me up to my room, and I thought, on one hand, it's a hilarious story, but if you really look deeper, it's pathetic and, unprofessional and unbecoming. I believe the way you look at a celebrity chef is the way I felt when I was a champion fighter. A champion is a man or a woman that stands with the people and for the people. And I had no right being that wasted. I had no right being out there signing autographs and looking like a fool publicly the way that I did. And I believe I caused horrible embarrassment to the people that were around me. NBC Sports, the Kentucky Derby, Churchill Downs. I've got a letter of apology that's going out. It's taken me this long to really think through what I want to say, because I want the I want the power of my recovery story to shine. I don't want it to just be the apology. I want it to be, thank you for the privilege and the honor, but let me tell you what I've learned, and let me tell you where I'm at in life right now, and thank them for the opportunity. So, yeah, just all of these things.
Mm-hmm. So when you look back on it, I know you said, it started out as a young age. You're thinking of liking it for the taste. You realize in your 20s, okay, something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drinking too much. You stop. You're able to stop, and then you get into this, you get into the celebrity world, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just part of the scene to some
It
extent.
is.
You drink.
Yeah.
Then was it just the drinking, or did you find that you needed other things just to maintain with the drinking?
Yeah. So I really did start going off the rails. I would find myself backstage, different concerts I was invited to be a part of. They call me the rock and roll chef in a lot of circles because of the different rockers and the different pop artists that I know and I hang with. I began intermittently using cocaine because nothing will give you a bump when you need that energy like a shot of cocaine. And that would get me through the night. But then, like I said, I'd want to come down. And so I would drink heavier and heavier. And so your life is just this constant up and down. And I realized I don't need this. And I called my wife one night. I'll never forget it. I was in a hotel in Southern California, and I called my wife and I admitted to her that I'd become an addict, specifically opioids. Coke was easy for me to lay down. As a dad of 3 boys, I didn't want them to read about, hey, dad's one of those celebrities they found dead in a hotel room somewhere in Hollywood because he OD'd. I didn't want that. And so I walked away from Coke. But I was so addicted to opioids, um, whether I was on tour or at home, if I felt like I needed to get high, I would simply go walk into an ER, fake some kind of pain so they could shoot me up full of Dilaudid or morphine. And again, I liked that high feeling. And I would go to the point where I would tell them, nah, I'm still feeling pain. So I can get a double, maybe even a triple shot of what they had. And when I did this for a series of months, I realized I had a problem. Again, it took me a while before that light went on in my head, but once it did, I was able to walk away. But the alcohol, Joy, that's the one thing that I could not let go of. And again, it took me to bottom out at the Kentucky Derby for me to understand that I really did have a problem and that I desperately needed help. And so, again, Desert Hope was there, and what an awesome group of people. Um, I just can't articulate enough how grateful I am for American Addiction Centers and for the people at Desert Hope here in Vegas.
Mhm. Well, I can imagine you said, having that support system and the treatment that they provided. But I think just your story is so interesting in the fact that you realize, hey, I can't keep doing these other drugs. And you were able to cut back and say, but the alcohol was that final thing that
Yeah.
you knew you needed help with. And I think what I hope people will hear in listening to your story is that sometimes we have to remember that addiction is a disease and it can be difficult, despite
Very.
your best efforts. How difficult was it for you? I know you said you were able to deal with the other things, but when it came to the alcohol, I mean, did you try stopping? I know you had tried in your 20s, but at this point,
Oh
you've
my
been doing
God.
it for so long.
I can tell you, my wife and kids, I would feel great, and I'd be amped up about life. And I said, guys, I quit drinking, and they were like, just stop. Okay, they accused me of being a liar. They said, you tell us that, but we know you're going to get drunk. You're going to go drink. You're going to be you. And I was like, it hurt my heart because I was genuinely making an effort. I would talk with, people in AA. I would talk with my producers. They got to the point where they were like, Chef, instead of a beer, we're going to hand you a mocktail. That way you can feel like you're having a drink on location. But then invariably, I would end up pushing that away and I would say, I want a beer. I want you to go get me whiskey. I want this. And people know I tend to walk very humbly and I'm very approachable, but I am a bulldog. And when I say I want this, they're not going to go up against me. They're going to just say, yes, chef, and they're going to get me what I want. Well, when I started really looking at the possibility of giving alcohol up completely, I realized that I'd become a bully. I really
Mm,
began bullying my staff because their heart was, Chef, you tell us to hold you accountable, we do it. And then, you jump on us for it, and so they're like, we don't know what direction to go with you. And so the Kentucky Derby, I cannot say enough. That was my wake up call.
mhm,
And the alcohol for me, that beautiful aroma of wine, and to be able to, I could literally breathe in the aroma from a glass for hours without even tasting it. I love beautiful wines. And the one thing, Joy, that I learned in recovery, I'd never heard this before: one is too many, and 1,000 is
mm,
never enough. And my kids watched me going from having a glass of wine in the studio or when I'm playing music or whatever I'm doing to two glasses, to I'm increasing the quantity of the wine. So now two glasses is basically a full bottle of wine. And so now I'm into my second bottle of wine and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, you're not opening a third bottle. And, but they watched me go through this metamorphosis of enjoying wine as a professional chef to now I'm needing it to get me through so that I can entertain, I can perform. And this is a lie that I think a lot of people buy into. Well, it makes me better. I can perform better if I have these drugs or this alcohol in me. And it's a lie. I can
mm.
tell you right now, I'm the most clear-headed I've been in over 20 years. I'm now 6 pant sizes down. I'm getting back to bodybuilding, and I feel great. And I feel great because I'm not doing drugs. I'm not drinking. I'm the most clear-headed I've been, and it's just amazing. So I would encourage anybody watching right now, don't believe for 1 second that you can just have one. Just go the distance. Say no. It doesn't benefit you. Think about this, Joy. There's no benefit to alcohol. Alcohol is pure poison to your body. There's not one health thing that you can say, oh, well, drinking alcohol helps. No, it doesn't. It destroys your brain cells. It destroys your blood. It destroys your organs. There's nothing positive about alcohol.
Hmm. Well, you know what's interesting is when I listen to you talk, I wonder what was it about the Kentucky Derby experience that was the wake up call? Because you said
Um,
that you've been going through this, different times, but there was something about that.
I look back, Joy, and I realize I should have said no, thank you. I wouldn't have been dishonorable or um, not. I would not be perceived as not being gracious and grateful for the opportunity if I told people, "Thank you, I've had enough." But I felt obliged
Hmm.
to take the drinks that the people were wanting to buy for me. I felt that that's what I was called to do. Is they wanted to be with me. They wanted me to sign their, I signed a woman's purse. I signed a guy's T-shirt, and I love doing that for people. It's just something very small that I can do to be a blessing to their life. So why not? And so if you can imagine going around to 19 tables or so, and everybody's buying me anywhere from a single to a triple shot. By the time I even started on the first table, I had already been with my guys and my crew and had like 3 beers, plus a few shots. So by the time I made it around the room, I fell on my face. I don't remember that. I just blacked out. And our security detail was a combination of Kentucky State Troopers and the contingency of Marines. We were all drinking together, having a good time. And I woke up in my hotel room oblivious as to how I got there. I found out that they had to load me onto a hotel cart and carry me up to my room. I was soaked in urine. It was hideous. And I felt about that tall. And I talked with the sergeant that I remember being with the Kentucky State Troopers. And he said, "Did you make it to work today?" I said, "Yes, sir." He was like, "No, serious." He was like, "You were so wasted. I was convinced you would not make it to Churchill Downs." I said, "Yes, sir, I did. I went. I signed autographs. I hung out with people, did what I do, and then I performed at my private dining experience afterwards." And Sergeant Gabriel, amazing man, and um, the thing about the Kentucky Derby, I learned that I can say no, and it's okay. I can tell people, you know what, hey, thank you so much for offering. I made a decision. I don't drink alcohol anymore. And do you know that having that strength to be able to tell people no has earned a whole new level of respect for who I am as a personality. And it feels great because I know I'm being that example as a dad to my 3 sons. I've got my marriage back. Amy and I had talked at one point about we're done. I didn't want to be with her. She didn't want to be with me, but she didn't want to be with me because that's not the man that I was that she fell in love with and wanted to marry.
Mhm.
I got caught up in the bright lights in the big cities. I got caught up in the lies. I felt, oh, I have to drink because they're buying this for me. No, you don't. You can say, you know what? Hey, I'll take a tea or I'll take a zero alcohol beer, and I'm living my best life now.
What was
Yeah.
the biggest surprise that you learned about your addiction or about recovery through this
So
process?
sure, I'll never forget. You start your day in group, and we always talked about what our anxiety level was. Did we have any cravings? And what I discovered was how easy it was to be transparent. That I didn't have to hide from anybody. I'm listening to people that were pronounced dead on scene coming back to life, because they had a needle in their arm or
Mm.
something went awry with what they were drinking and taking pills or whatever. And so I realized I can just come straight out, be naked and vulnerable, and I'm not going to be judged. There's
Mm.
nothing I can tell these people and have them go, "Oh my God, you did that." No, they were like, "Wow, hey, thank you for sharing." And it allowed me to be very honest with people. We say in recovery, it's called rigorous honesty. And I learned what that really means. And I was able to come out. It's where I was able to divulge that I was using cocaine at one point in my career. I was able to divulge I was an opioid addict and probably came damn near death a number of times. And, but I'm not. I'm alive and I'm rocking and doing very well. Um, Desert Hope was for me. It literally was a beacon, just being enveloped in darkness. And they were able to walk with me from the point of where I walked in. They loved on me, they accepted me for where I was, but they always challenged me every day to do better, to be better. And it felt like for me as an athlete, it felt like a coach. I'll never forget one day, Joy, my football coach was just all over me. And I broke and I started to cry. And he grabbed me by my face mask and he pulled me close. He said, "Scotty, take a knee." And he got down eyeball level with me and he said, "I want you to pay attention. Which players do we scream and yell at?" I honestly, God, I didn't know. I said, "I don't know, coach." And I was angry. And so I said, "I don't know." And he said, and he got really quiet. He said, "We yell and we are harder on the players that we see the most potential in." Mm-hmm. And it hit me. He was being hard on me because he saw talent in me and he wanted to draw that out. And it's frustrating to sometimes find talented people and get them to perform at that optimal level. And to me, that's what the doctors, the nurses, the TAs, there wasn't a person at Desert Hope that didn't affect my life, whether it was on the periphery or directly. And the skills that they taught me. I told you a little while ago, the one thing that just hit me was one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. But it was also that plus wrapping everything up about being honest. I can tell my wife, she's like, "Are you craving it all?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I'm craving it." "What are you craving?" "Well, I want to go drink whiskey." "Well, what are you going to do about that?" "Well, I'm going to go talk to my sponsor." Or, "You know what? I'm going to sit down. I'm going to write. I'm going to journal. I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go for a bike ride." I've got so many other avenues. One of the concerns that my therapist had is, "You're a chef. You're going to be around alcohol incessantly. How are you going to approach it?" And you know what? My group sat with me and we came up with ideas together to combat my addiction. They were like, "Check this out. If I see a bottle on the counter, I immediately think I want to drink that. But guess what? If I put that alcohol into a squeeze bottle, now I immediately associate that as a ingredient that I need." And so just the other night, we did a private dining experience. My boys were with me, my two youngest, and we stopped and we got about 2 ounces of the whiskey that we needed. They managed it. They put it into the squeeze bottle for me. They did the flambe for me, and it was a beautiful night. And it really comes down, Joy, to one question: how bad do you want it? And Eric Taylor says, when you want success as bad as you want to breathe, it'll happen. And I got to the point with my drinking that I wanted to live. I wanted to breathe. I wanted to be the best husband, the best dad, the best entertainer, the best writer, producer, and director I can be. And I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. I failed too many times. And so being at Desert Hope, I learned that only an alcoholic can help an alcoholic. I learned that one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. I learned skills that will help keep me sober. If you were to walk in my bedroom right now, you would find my 2 notebooks where I wrote copious amounts of notes and all of the worksheets, and they're sitting on my bed because every day I go through that. Every day I go through my relapse prevention plan. And, my therapist now said, "You know what? When's the last time you sat with your family and went through the relapse, plan?" Guess what? We're doing that tonight as a family. So it's like every day I've got to push myself to choose life. Alcohol and drugs is death. Every day I wake up and I say, thank God I choose life.
That's powerful. Every day you choose life. And I can only imagine, as you said earlier, that life is better than you ever thought it could be after 20 years of dealing with this.
Better.
So, as we wrap up, Bryan David, if there was one final thought that you would leave with someone who it looks up to you, admires you, and maybe they're struggling right now with alcohol or maybe it's drugs, what would be your message?
I would implore you to be honest with yourself enough to say, I need help. Those 3 words will open the doors to people in the world that will walk with you, love you, understand you, and that will stand with you. You don't need to be afraid to say, I need help. And I'm Bryan David Scott, and I'm saying to you right now, if you need help, it is available. Pick up the phone. Do not fall victim to the 1,000-pound phone syndrome. Pick that phone up, make the call, and get the help. And you're going to find your life is worth living. And I would challenge you to find what your gifts and your talents are and run headlong into making your dreams come true. And I promise, being drug and alcohol free, you will be living your best life.
I love that. You will be living your best life. So on that, we're going to end this. Thank you so much, Bryan David Scott, for sharing your story for us.
My pleasure.
Everyone, you have been listening to Recovery Stories from the Pandemic.
Thank you, everybody. God bless.